Hi everyone, this is Grace, and today I'll be walking you through how I made this lines and dots set. Now, full confession time, I actually made this in September 2020. That does not mean that it is any less good of a set, it just means that it might take me a minute to remember what it is exactly that I did and how I did it. This set I actually made after a 5 month hiatus from cookies and social media altogether. I wasn't sure if I was going to come back at all. I think this was the third set that I made after I came back. And for some reason, I chose to challenge myself. I've always been very self conscious about my fine detail and line work. So I thought, you know what, Grace, just overcome your fear and just do a set with just fine lines and detail work. And so I bring you this set. Yeah. Okay. I know the number one question is going to be, how did I get these colors? Honestly, I'm real sorry, but I have no idea. Yeah, almost always use some leftover color from something else, another project. To begin with, I rarely ever start a color from scratch. And then I just mix away to my heart's desire. Um, what I can say is that this is definitely a more bluish green. Probably has like a tad more blue than yellow. It probably has a little bit of black in it. Yeah, that's all I got. So, in terms of technique here, I'm obviously doing a two consistency outline and flood. My flood's on the thinner side. I'd probably call that like a thin flood. And I'm doing a soft peak piping consistency for all of the lines and dots. And that's really important for line work, to do a soft peak. That's really the chef's kiss for, right, the kind of, for line work piping. Why is that? It's just I don't know, it's just the easiest to work with, and the peaks settle very easily. So I just want to point out as I'm doing the line work here, so obviously I did it at an angle, but also what you can't really see all that well is I actually wrapped the icing around the edge, which I think is really what sets it apart from just like lines across the cookie. Let's see if we can see that better in the photo. You can kind of see it, how it's wrapping around the side. That, I think, is just the best look for line work. You didn't see it there. I guess I didn't do it there. But if you ever do, if you ever do that kind of technique, and your edges are kind of messy, you can always take a scribe. I would recommend like a really thin one, like the PME metal one that I use all the time. And you can kind of chop off the ends of the icing on the edge of the cookie. Make sure that your icing is still wet though, because if it's already crusted, it's gonna leave like a really messy cut off of the icing. Now what I'm doing here is this is a one consistency outline and flood, and I have a hunch that I did that for the white because I didn't need white for anything else, and I was not about to make piping consistency white just to outline these cookies. No ma'am, no sir, no thank you, no. I make decisions like that all the time when I put a set together. I'm not going to do something that's unnecessarily difficult unless it's really worth it, and in this case I determined it was not worth it. So let's get to the second layer here, which is adding the leaves on top of it. And okay, what I see here is that I did a one consistency outline and flood, I guess is what you could call it, all with a soft peak. And I did that because I wanted to reduce the chance of getting craters. Craters naturally happen. It's when the icing dips in the center as it dries. It's more pronounced in the smaller area. And in this case, or not, in all cases, the thicker the icing you can use, the better. That's less likely to crater. Now, a piece of advice on doing a second layer like this, no matter what, whether you're using a soft peak or if you're flooding it just normally, is to do it when the first layer has just barely crusted enough to put something on top of it. So when I say first layer, like that's the white flood there. I don't think I knew that when I made this set almost 2 years ago. Wow. was a long time ago. Um, yeah, I have a hunch I didn't know that, so that's why I was using the soft peak. Now, I have seen people, and just the other day, one of my favorite cookiers, she um, she was doing like a rainbow detail situation, and like two-layer rainbow, and she used the thinnest flood, and there were no critters, and I was like, how did you do that? Absolute magic. And she just said that she just makes sure that her first layer has just barely crusted. Now, what was I gonna say? Oh, I try to do that to the best of my ability, but I must admit that I'm not always that focused on making sure that the first layer has just barely crusted, so I'm not always the most successful in that department. Yeah, just a side note. So with this one consistency, outline and flood with the soft peak, it can be a little challenging not to have like little texture bits that you don't want left over on top from either the scribe or the tip of the bag from settling the icing. And you can kind of see it on like the two lower right leaves. I would say this is totally manageable and not not terrible. I've certainly had worse outcomes with a scribe and whatnot. But the beauty of this design is that this additional line work on top covers any of that. And if you did get craters with your leaves, y'all, this would distract from that impeccably. I'm a big fan of designs and additional detail work that covers up mistakes, covers up boo-boos like craters, or I've definitely had things where I like accidentally knocked the icing before it dried and then I covered it with something else. So no one would know. It's all good. I'm using the same icing here, but I think what I did is I have a hunch that I used two different bags of icing because the thickness of this line is so much thinner than the thickness of the leaf stem. So since you're using a tipless bag, it's not like I can just switch out the size of the tip like a piping tip. So I do have to use, in order to have two different size tips like in the same set at the same time, is to have two different bags of icing. Not great for the environment, obviously, but here we are. I'm also making sure as I'm piping that I'm really pulling the icing around the edge of that leaf, like really wrapping it around for full effect. You know, I thought after I made this, because I think the lines are supposed to kind of show shade. Maybe that's the original inspiration for this kind of detail, because I certainly am not the first person to come up with this kind of cover half the leaf in these kinds of lines. And to me, visually, it looks the prettiest when you do it the way I did, which is always on the right side of the leaf. But I was thinking about it, I was like, if this is supposed to be like shadows, then I don't think it's supposed to be like this. Actually, like it should have been on the left side of the leaves on the left, right? Does that make more sense? I don't know. Now I'm thinking about this way too much. I don't know. Okay, so that was the kind of leaf inspiration. And then this is the dot. That was the lines first. Now we're moving on to dots. So, I also know that people are going to want to know how I got such a rich color. And of course, I don't really have an answer for you, but let's see. So it's a really deep, rich purple. I tend to like to add some pink when I'm mixing a purple. This does look more on the pink-red side than the blue side. And again, I have a hunch I added some black to this, but y'all, I really, at some point, need to actually sit down and, or next time I make a rich color, I need to take better notes. Because I don't know. I really just fly by the seat of my pants when I do colors, and a lot of it I've just learned by doing. But I still definitely struggle with how to get deep, rich colors. I don't always remember. I have to Google it every time. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so next we're doing the dots, which this is where it's extra important to make sure that you're using a soft peak piping consistency, because if you use anything thicker, then it's going to leave peaks on all of your dots, which is super frustrating because that doesn't look great. Because then you'll have to, well, you don't have to, but you'd probably want to go through with a scribe and settle every single dot, which is like, y'all, who has time for that? No one has time for that. That's who has time for that. Okay. I was just amused at myself. Yeah, I'm looking at this though, and I really think that my thickness here, this is a soft peak. I can just tell by the way the icing's kind of glistening. Just keep that in mind. Pretty impressed with myself though. My dot skills. There she is. She cute. All right. Moving on to the final cookie from this set. We are starting off the same, of course, which is, or starting off the same as the last leaf cluster, which is to do the one consistency, outline and flood with the white. This is going to be like my thick flood. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out my video on consistencies. And I know at this point, and I can tell by the color of my icing, I did not color my white icing at this point. It does get lighter in the mixer as you're mixing it, but nowadays I do color my white icing with either white gel food coloring, I have AmeriColor, or I use the Sugar Art Master Elite in white. It really makes it more of a bright white, which I prefer. If you like less of a bright white in your sets, then you do not need to color your icing. People also say that coloring white icing helps with color bleed. I don't have a lot of problems with color bleed, so that's, I don't know if that really is true, but tons of people say that that helps. So for this design, since I was doing something sort of non-traditional anyway with these circle leaf things, I don't know, and it's purple, I wanted to mix up this cutter a little bit. The way I did it the first way is the most traditional way and the way this cutter was originally designed. But for this one, I wanted to add a little bit extra. So a little bit, something different. So that's where you see me doing here, just kind of riffing a little bit and adding some extra stems to this leaf situation. I'm really liking this seamless look though of doing the one consistency with the soft peak. I really just feel like it, yeah, it's so pretty. So pretty. I'm in love. So in love. Okay. What else can I talk about here? I would say the reason why I'm kind of doing these dots the way I'm doing them instead of just like squeezing and letting it all fill in is because the tip on my bag was not that big. If I had a bigger tip, I might have just like squeezed one big dot out, if that makes any sense. And then obviously, okay, so I let the purple crust, and I'm doing these dots on top. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm doing it in a pretty methodical way because that's just how my brain works. And again, I'm doing everything on the right side, which is like, I don't know, whatever. It looks pretty. We're not going to think too hard about this. Right? Right. Or maybe we will. I don't know. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm just really happy. So the reason I didn't share this set for so long is because always have a couple of sets on hand that I haven't posted yet, and I call those kind of my emergency sets to post just in case. But now I have 3 sets from 2 from 2020 and 1 from I think 2019 that I haven't posted on social media yet. And now is the time, y'all. Now is the time. I'm just going to be posting them. So this is the first one. There will be more. Cannot wait to show them to you. I hope you enjoyed this video, learned a thing or two, and maybe you'll even try this yourself. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone just like I did. Love y'all. Have a sweet one.